A common thing in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross's story is Strelitzia, a character who was on screen for such a short amount of time, but managed to have such a huge impact on the world around her. Strelitzia is a shy and sweet girl who happens to be the sister to Lauriam, or Marluxia as we know him as the most, one of our current Union leaders. She was used as an introduction to Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. Strelitzia was meant to be a leader in the world Ava would send the Dandelions to after the Keyblade War. However, she was tragically murdered before she could meet the other leaders. In fact, someone ended up taking her place among them. We found out that this person was Ventus in a very recent Union Cross update a couple of months ago, the one who took her place. We don't quite know if he's the killer quite yet because there seems to be some complications with his memories, which I'm sure they're going to expand on eventually. We're still waiting. We haven't gotten a Union Cross update since May. Summer is almost over now, come on Square. Though I can cut them some slack. We've gotten like some pretty good story in Dark Road recently, and we might get an update this month. Kingdom Hearts Union Cross is, or Kingdom Hearts Key in general actually, is portraying a whole story of tragedy, along with a mystery in hopes of clearing up some things and introducing some things into the timeline for the upcoming saga. You could kind of say that Kingdom Hearts Key is the foundation for a lot of the things we're going to be seeing in the next arc. When we think of things like the epilogue, or maybe even Verum Rex and how the Master of Masters was somehow there in the secret ending, you can kind of tell that this is going to lay the groundwork for what is going to be the future of the Kingdom Hearts series. Now maybe they'll remaster it or make a movie out of all of this, because I know not everyone is too fond of a mobile game, though the story for Kingdom Hearts Key I can definitely say is pretty good and is worth investing your time into. But we saw her life play out in a short series of updates that included her stalking the player and being approached by Lady Ava to be a Union leader. After finding out about the events that would take place, she wanted to save the player from it and went to warn them, though instead she got her life taken. All we know about Strelitzia is that she was meant to be the 5th Union leader, she was Lauriam's sister, and some strong feelings towards the player were inside her. She wanted the player to be her friend, I'd assume. And that's it. Despite those being the only things we know about her character, every major piece of story progression since has seemingly revolved around her. Big questions we have in Union Cross right now that do or are heavily theorized to involve Strelitzia for the past 3 years are things like, who was Strelitzia's killer? Who was meant to take her place? Who is Darkness? Is the killer Darkness? These questions either do or are heavily theorized to involve her murder, and answers to questions will likely be solved if we figure out how the murder happened in the first place, which after 3 years we're finally getting into. One of those big questions that I mentioned has been taken off, the one about who was meant to take her place. We now know that that was Ventus. Hopefully the other ones slowly fall down as well. We only recently got shown Strelitzia again in a beautiful cutscene with her talking to her brother Marluxia / Lauriam. She seems like a really sweet yet shy individual. Lauriam clearly cares a lot about her, and ever since becoming a Union leader has spent all his time finding clues to her whereabouts. And honestly, in the small cutscenes Strelitzia has been in, she's made quite an impact not only on Kingdom Hearts Key's story, but on the Kingdom Hearts community as well. Now, the Kingdom Hearts community definitely gets attached to a lot of characters. Any character Nomura spends time writing into the story, fans will spend a lot of time making fan art of, theories about, and just overall just kind of showing love towards the character. And Strelitzia, despite only having like barely 30 minutes of screen time, probably not even that, probably barely 20 in the entire series, she's probably one of the most popular and most talked about characters in Union Cross, and for good reason, because like I said, like the entirety of the story seems to be revolving around her and her death, despite her not being showcased too much in the game. I mean, she kind of showed up and then she immediately, well, died, which definitely made me a little sad because I kind of got attached to her in the little time she was on screen. I mean, I feel like she showcased so much personality compared to a lot of the other characters we see in Union Cross. I mean, I feel like I know more about her personality than some of the Union leaders, if I'm being honest with you, and I felt this even before the cutscene with Marluxia / Lauriam recently. I mean, the cutscene with Lauriam just expanded upon that feeling on how I feel like she showcases a lot of personality for a character who's she's not necessarily on screen that often. It's just crazy how much she's been involved. She's made a huge impact on this story, on this world, on this community. But what's the end goal with her? Is the end goal some Sasuke arc where Laurium goes mad with rage after finding out what happened to his sister, which eventually leads to him joining the organization, or being recruited for the organization rather? Is the end goal Strelitzia coming back to the world through the power of waking or other means? Is her death just forever just going to be a plot device in Laurium's character development, or is it something that will even affect us now in our modern timeline? These are things that are all very strong possibilities, but it's just too early to form a concrete answer on these things. While on one hand, I don't think death and Kingdom Hearts are very common things, and that Strelitzia is likely to play a role in the future in some way. On another hand, I can definitely understand why people believe she is dead for good and will never come back, because that will only benefit Laurium's character. And there's also no clear reason to believe why she would. During the most recent story update, during that scene with Laurium and her on the hill, she appeared in a white coat towards the end, which to me seems like some sort of symbolism for her death. Although there seems to have been many theories and interesting discussions about why she's wearing a white coat, which are too vague to speculate on, though it's interesting to say the least, because people speculate that white coats might be a thing in the future since we already have black coats in the organization. Though I feel like that would be a very bizarre thing for the Kingdom Hearts series, but it's definitely something that might be possible. I don't know. If you ask me personally, I would actually not mind if Strelitzia came back in the world of Kingdom Hearts. Now, she doesn't have to be alive or anything, but I definitely want to see a lot more of her. I definitely wouldn't be too satisfied if she just showed up, was given an important role like being a union leader, only to have that taken away for the sake of Marluxia or Laurium's character development. Now, although she has a big impact on this world story, you could compare her almost to a Xion in Days in a lot of ways, though Xion had immensely more screen time, more so comparing the impact their deaths had on each character. Strelitzia's death seems to impact Laurium quite a bit, and Xion's death seems to add a lot more weight to Roxas's story arc in Kingdom Hearts 2 and his return in Kingdom Hearts 3, all of their returns in Kingdom Hearts 3, making the things that tie their friendship, their hearts together a lot more wholesome, heartwarming, and just overall special. With Strelitzia, it's definitely a little bit of a different story. I think having her just come back to life like out of the blue would definitely devalue some things about her death and its initial impact. I mean, we've been in this like situation with her death for like 3 years now, although it hasn't been that long in Union Cross because we haven't gotten that many story updates since then. But it would kind of make everything leading up to like them solving this murder mystery just a little bizarre, or maybe hold a lot less weight. Though what I mean is I want Strelitzia to have a more spiritual role going forward, because I'm not too fond of her only having 20 minutes of screen time. And while I don't need to see like her in every single cutscene going forward, I would definitely like to know that she has played some consistent part in Marluxia's story, or some consistent part in the story overall to the Kingdom Hearts series. And I feel like having her like present in a spiritual sense for Marluxia, like maybe a sort of guide, maybe not even just for him, but maybe Sora interacts with her in some way in Verum Rex, since he seems to be in a situation where he's kind of lost himself, quote. Maybe somehow he finds a way to interact with her and they connect and bond, and it gives Sora more of a drive to meet Marluxia again. I don't know, I just feel like it's really important that her presence is still felt throughout the series after Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. When this story eventually does come to a close, I want to still hear her mentioned in future games. I want to still see her. I still want to see an Unreal Engine 4 model of her. But there's a lot of different routes they could go with her character. And I definitely think the end goal for her character might be her returning in some aspect or being used against Marluxia in some way, shape, or form in the future. Maybe the Master of Masters uses Strelitzia to mess with Laurium. Maybe somehow he finds a way to bring her back and she's the evil one, like fighting him or something, like a pseudo Antiochus situation, I guess. Or maybe Laurium post Kingdom Hearts 3 remembers everything that happened with Strelitzia and knows a way to save her or bring her back, and his new motivation now is to fulfill that mission. Or maybe she's walking around somewhere in Verum-Rex and we just don't know it. Who knows? There's a lot of possibilities with her character, though with the minimal Union Cross updates, all we can really do is speculate and theorize about what might happen and have hopes and dreams. But anything new story developments can happen at the blink of an eye and can completely change how I feel about the situation or how I feel in general towards her character. So who knows, this opinion might change with time, but I want to hear yours. What do you think will happen with Strelitzia in the future? What do you think the end goal might be for her character? Do you understand maybe where I'm coming from about why I would not mind her coming back to life maybe? Or how I wouldn't mind her having a sort of spiritual role in the series where she sort of guides Laurium or other characters on the right path? What do you guys think in the comment section down below? But if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like, share the video with a friend or a family member, and last but not least, if you're not already and want to become a part of the Union, all you have to do is hit that red little subscribe button down below. My name is Prodigy, and I will talk to you guys soon. Peace out, guys.